Welcome to another Coffee with Samso, where we talk to ASX companies and CEOs about the strategies and the projects and what they like about these. We're at the University Club here in Crawley, and I've got Maximus Resources here today with Team Wither. And Tim, you guys are working down in Wattle Dam. And maybe Tim, give us a good intro about yourself and let's hear the story.
Yeah, morning Noel. Mining engineer, been with the company August last year, and September brought in a new management team into Maximus. Maximus Resources have main projects, 48 square kilometres of mining tenure, 20 kilometres away from Kambalda, which is Australia's heart of the gold and nickel in Australia. So quite fortunate to have it. The tenements themselves have the historical Wattle Dam, and Wattle Dam is the mine that was the platform for building Ramelius into what the company is today.
Yeah, and I sort of have heard about Wattle Dam and what it is. I guess it's. And Kambalda is also a sort of, although it's gold and nickel, to me has a more of a nickel history, and that's why when I saw you guys with a gold story, literally a stone's throw from a nickel country. But you do have a nickel flavour, which we can talk about a bit later. But yeah, can you just let us know how did you get Wattle Dam? And obviously, it's prestigious, or it's had a good history.
Fantastic.
How did you guys come about it?
Yeah, spectacular is one word to use what happened at Wattle Dam. Wattle Dam was owned by Ramelius. Ramelius was a spin out of Beach Energy, and these were companies controlled by Bob Kennedy. And when the spin out of Beach Energy, Ramelius was a $3 million market cap junior mining company. They had a very, very modest resource on there. So originally when Wattle Dam was drilled into, it had 11 metres at 0.2 a gram. Nothing really exciting. I had 11 metres at 6 grams, 1987 or something like that. And so one of the first resources for Wattle Dam was 16,500 ounces. It ended up producing 270,000 ounces at 10 grams. So when they originally opened up the open pit, 1.5 tonnes of gold, but 1.5 tonnes of gold came out of a relatively small pit. We've met guys who worked underground, and they'd have seams of gold running through the faces as thick as your thumb. And even at Riu, when I was there over the week, a guy came and told me about how he was bogging and had to put the buns in front of the stope, and the bun was out of gold, and there was gold. He thought it was yellow gloves, and from the old charge up days, so there was actually gold sitting inside these buns. So spectacular grades for this. 270 at 10. The underground was 15 grams, so 220,000 ounces was produced out of that. So they made Ramelius made $100 million, 2 to 3 years. They made what was a big acquisition. It was $40 million for Harmony's Hill 50. Ramelius 2-3 years prior was a $3 million market cap. It was one geo and a couple of guys, and these guys were running an active gold mine. They were doing exploration around the area. They were doing DD. I've even been told they were doing DD on assets in America, and they were doing DD on what was a very large asset. So not much exploration had been done in that region, and purely just because of focus. The focus was going into Harmony's Hill 50, and it was a big acquisition for a junior company. So a lot of money was made out of Wattle Dam. Those assets were moved into a company called Tykean. Again, another company controlled by Bob Kennedy, because to keep control of those assets. And then those assets, Tykean found Redback, which is 600 metres from Wattle Dam. And then through turn of events, the assets were moved into Maximus, which was one of the stronger of the stable companies within the stable of Bob Kennedy. Bob's late at the moment, and these assets would effectively been in the family since 2002, 2003.
I mean, when you talk about your grades and what Wattle Dam did have, just looking at your presentation here, quarter mil ounces at 10 grams, it's not very common these days. And also, I guess, obviously, with your previous drilling, you're seeing those intercepts, and you're now, I think your latest one was 16 at 9 something?
16 grams at 9 with 5 at 18 grams.
Yeah.
Within Redback.
So what is the strategy? I guess from investor, from someone who's, a lot of the guys that do watch this are not sort of from our industry. What's the strategy? And obviously, has all the good stuff been taken? What's the strategy that you guys are using for Wattle Dam? Yeah,
so one strong belief that the exploration hasn't been done. Wattle Dam itself, the high grade chute, was 80 metres long, 8 to 15 metres wide, and it only went down to 365 metres. So very, very shallow and short strike and steep plunging. So within the broad exploration that's been done on that tenure, you could fit multiple Wattle Dams in between rows. I mean, they missed Wattle Dam, and it was just, these were intelligent guys. These are smart guys, and it's just by the sheer persistence and luck of the exploration phase of it. So we strongly believe there's another Wattle Dam. Wattle Dam didn't occur just because. I mean, there is evidence that we've got a much larger plumbing system there, and when I say that, we know that there is there. So one of our recent thoughts, with me is Travis Murphy, structural PhD geologist. We've got a theory that these deposits to the south, so we've got 112,000 ounces in resources. We've got a Redback, which is 600 metres from Wattle Dam. Redback points directly to Wattle Dam as by strike, so the geometry of the ore body points directly to Wattle Dam. Over to the west, we've got all golden orb, and that basically points towards Wattle Dam. And then you go into the pit and you look south towards Redback and golden orb, and what is our new discovery, S5. That's spectacular to have such a good result early on in our piece. I mean, that's brand new discovery. And then you sit in the pit, and then you look south and you see these structures that are going off directly back towards these things. So within our results last week, or this week, sorry, Monday, 16 at 9 grams, 5 at 18, spectacular, like any day of the week. I think this week we've been the best results for this week on the ASX. But our more interesting was this 29 metres at 0.5 and 10 metres at 0.5. So there's 40 metres of mineralisation. That was to the most northern extent of Redback. It added 20% extra strike to our mineral envelope. And 5 gram doesn't light the world on fire, but what it does show is that mineralisation system, that theory that we're connected to Wattle Dam from Redback, and Wattle Dam itself is a much larger system than what it is. So it needs a lot more work and it needs a lot more drilling. So we've been drilling since December, and we'll continue drilling up for that. So we're testing linking structures between Redback and Wattle Dam. We've also, with our S5 discovery, so our first hole with S5 was 3 metres at 83 grams. If I got that hit every time I started an exploration program, I would be happy. And then our next hole was 32 metres at 3.2. We got sold down on the 3.2 because of expectations were most probably a little higher. But those broad zones of mineralisation, we know that there's broad zones of mineralisation right next to Wattle Dam itself. So there's a Stockwork which has no inventory placed on it, which we'll get to. But knowing that there's these broad zones of mineralisation right next to what was a very high grade chute, it's been mined out, gives us more confidence that we're on that right path, that there's a much larger mineralisation system within within the area. I mean, this is still a postage stamp. This is within 600 metres of Wattle Dam.
No, I can see from the maps. I mean, the fact that you got such a well endowed mine, and the laws of probability in our game is that it just didn't happen by itself. It just doesn't happen, right? And that's why provinces are named, because there's more than one.
Yeah.
And I know. I mean, I like the fact that a lot of people and I get a lot of feedback from guys that watch Coffee with Samso is that I try and remind them that a broad zone, especially with 3, or I was using examples of a much lower grade, is actually more welcome than a meter at a high number, because one's a discovery, one's not. We won't sort of put the mock on you in the sense that you discover something.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 30 metres of 3 grams every day than 2 metres at 50,
Yeah.
But although 250 is actually quite good.
Yeah.
but I think that's the key that a lot of people that need to understand is that broad zones is what you guys, the likes of you guys, are chasing, because that's what makes a mine steady.
Yeah, so this broad zones means that a lot of fluid, which is bringing up the mineralisation from depth, and that's what I talk about plumbing system. So if we think about it, it's all in fluid state. A lot of fluid has come up through those zones. So you can't. It's like a fat man drinking through a straw. The bigger the straw, the more fluid you can get up and down. So having these broad zones means a lot of fluids come up, and a lot of fluid would, the precipitation of the gold out of that. Wattle Dam itself is unique. It's in the komatiite, and having this high grade shoot of 15 grams overall, there's chemical reaction on that eastern side of it. But it means a lot of fluids come up and down. So that's what we mean by a large plumbing system within there. And Travis is the right guy to be finding these and pulling apart, teasing apart the puzzle what it is. But really walk-ups, because the structure, we can sit in Wattle Dam and look straight at Redback, and you sit on Redback and look straight at Wattle Dam. It's obvious that there's something there. I mean, postage stamp, because I walk from the core shed to the rig. It's all within close proximity. So we'll just keep. So the strategy for that immediate area is to build up Redback's resource. So 440,000 tonnes at 3 grams. Great, but let's try and get the grade up a little bit higher, get some more tonnes. And the 16 at 9. So it's 200 metres below depth, 180 metres below depth, but it's an extension of a high grade shoot. So that just gives us more confidence that we do have a higher probability and more confidence that we'll be able to upgrade that resource into a higher grade. So underground, it's well behaved, and this extension of this high grade domain shows that it's behaving as we expect, and having the linking structure at the same time helps to say that, well, maybe that is a Redback. We don't really know what it could be, and it's only going to grow, not going to shrink.
I mean, that's why when I saw you guys at RIU, and I think that's the benefits of going to a conference like RIU is that you get to sit there and talk to you guys casually for that length of time. That those intercepts, the first thing was okay, Wattle Dam's mined out, and it could be the only one, but obviously your drilling's showing that it's not, and with the broad zones, then the plumbing system is showing that it cannot be just one single source, right? So I think from my point of view, it's a good thing, but obviously in our market now, where we are getting rewarded in most times for those results, and people just need to understand that exploration is exploration. It doesn't happen. You're not going to have a mine in 2 years. So going forward, obviously you guys got this big focus on gold, and I mentioned that you got some nickel flavour. Yeah. I mean, to me, that area is all nickel, and the Widgiemooltha Dome's just downstairs, you know, in some ways?
Yeah, we've got so we've got 48 square kilometres of tenure, and we've got 60 square kilometres of gold rights to the south and towards Widgie. So we've got a quite a large land package to do for gold, and you know we'll meet every week and discuss our plan going forward. We've got a plan, you know, of some serious meters this year to go forward. I mean, that's our mandate. That's the money that we raised last year. The mandate is to drill, and that we are. And we've been diamond drilling for a while.
You got a couple of other projects I want to touch on before we sort of move on. The Larkinville and Nest, Eagle's Nest.
Eagle's Nest, yeah.
So how does that fit in with the rest of your...
So Eagle's Nest is where they found the golden eagle, reportedly the largest gold nugget found in Western Australia. I won't get into bar talk. So there's you know, quite a large size, lower grade deposit down there, and we've got Larkinville, which has got 3 grams, 120,000 tonnes at 3 grams. These are both shallow deposits, so they fit in with 112,000 ounces that we've got within our tenure package, and we're doing all the longer lead items for those. So we're doing all the environmental studies. So we'll get a scoping study out to place some valuation of those projects into the company. We'll bring those projects up to decision to mine, going through all the permitting processes and get those up to decision mine. They're not a standalone project, so they would be moving along. So, you know, call them stocking fillers, because our focus is getting a much larger resource. I mean, our ultimate goal would be to be able to create our own destiny and start printing off cash by producing gold. Toll treating agreements are very challenging, and you've really got to know be comfortable and 100% confident in your resource to be able to sell it, and you know, all purchase agreements. So we've got 7 quite hungry plants around within 50 kilometres of that area. We're right next to the Norseman Coolgardie Highway, so we've got great access to it, and you know, we'll bring those up. But I sort of see those as things to bring into the project. So there are sort of near-term, short-term gold productions if need to be, turn some cash on. And we've got also paleo channels to do it, but they're most probably lower down in our hierarchy, because our focus is to get the resource mass up, and that's what we're doing with the drill bit at the moment.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on, I actually forgot before we moved on from your whole Wattle Dam, that area, is, are you guys seeing geologically, structurally similar stuff? I know you talked about how you can see the structure coming off from Wattle Dam, but geologically, are you seeing the same kind of texture and things like that?
In S5 we are. So S5 was a discovery 300 metres south. It's just on the edge of the ROM pad, of what was Wattle Dam's ROM pad. I mean, some of the stories coming out of Wattle Dam with the amount of free gold that was coming out was spectacular. So S5 first hit was 3 metres at 83. So fear was, oh, it's a nugget. So the shallowest hole, or the deepest hole around that area at the time, was a RAB drill that was done by Remelius, and it was down to 20 metres. We hit the 3 at 83 at 25 metres. These are quite broad a RAB drilling that was done there. So then we went and did a RC program over the top of it and got the 32 metres at 3.20. So the textures that you see in the rock chips from the RC sort of alluded to a few things. It was our first drill program, first time our geos were looking at the rocks. We've got Andrew Woods, who lives in Kambalda, so we're part of Kambalda's community. And when we were looking at these rocks, you sort of get an understanding, well, an idea of what it is. So the real truth serum's the diamond drilling, which we've done, and we've been able to show that we've got 54 metres of this stockwork directly below this 32 metres at 3.2. So it shows that these things aren't sort of isolated gold events. So we were most probably a little bit the market was a bit underwhelmed with this 32 metres at 3.2 because only 1 or 2 holes had an intersection of gold significance. But what we didn't know at the time is we were chasing something on the western side of the Spargerville Shear. We didn't really know where the shear zone was. So we actually were targeting something much further to the west. With the holes that we're testing a little bit further to the east, we actually found the 32 at 3.2. So that was the first time we're looking at it with the RC, and then we've gone and confirmed that. So all the holes that weren't drilled deep enough to extend in this mineralisation, which we didn't know, like literally we were that far away from hitting the this stockwork zone in the RC. Then that's part of exploration. It's part of learning, and if everyone knew where it was, it'd be too easy. So you're learning along it. So when we did the diamond drilling, and we're still processing that data and those core now in the lab, but we saw 54 metres of this stockwork. So that stockwork's great because 300 metres to the north, there's a stockwork zone which has no resource category on it. There's no assigned ounces to that stockwork. Is directly to the west of Wattle Dam's high-grade chute. So to see that stockwork alive, I mean the stockwork, to explain it again, is signs of mass movement of fluid. So the stockwork was brittle, it was shattered. The fluids have been able to come up and so in the core you can see these quartz veinlets, and they're not veinlets but they're veins of this quartz. Doesn't say that that's mineralised, but what it does show is that fluid's been moved up and down from it. So that's directly to the south, 300 metres to the south. Redback's on a different, what we're interpreting as a different shear zone. So it's potentially a bit later or earlier, still figuring that out. But a slightly different mineralisation, but the zones of alterations is key, and that's what that 29 at 0.5 and 10 at 0.5 showed. It's these zones of alterations abroad from it. So slightly different in texture and the like, and maybe slightly different in timing, but having those materials, and you can see that's the truth. Is the drill core. Hadn't seen that. It's actually really, really exciting to see.
I guess for those that don't quite get what stockwork means, it's like an ant's nest or a beehive in that sense of, and that shows, like you mentioned, right, that there's this massive movement of fluids, and if the fluids carry mineralisation, then you're going to have the big, massive intercepts that you would find.
Potentially see, and we know it's on the eastern side of it, and that's just where it happened. We'll just keep on. We learn every time we go through it.
Mate, there's so many stories where if they had drilled that hole, they would have found this, and then was talking Alan Kelly was saying that my previous companies who had his project, which was Andy Well, if he had drilled that one hole, the other guy will be there talking. So it's the upside to all this is the fact that you've got the thing and you know the history, and you just got to be persistent. And so many projects have been left because there wasn't enough funding and support for it, and that's where you got it or somebody else.
Yeah, and it's just, when Tolga was able to come on board, he said, what are you seeing that other people aren't seeing? Today it's most probably a different answer, like we can see a much larger plumbing system, but the answer at the time was just got to go and do the work. That's the secret. These tenements have been held up. It is like a barn find. It's like getting granddad's GTS Monaro that someone's been sitting there and I'm going to do it up, and your uncle was going to do it up and never did it. And then you get the opportunity to get into it. So it's just the work that needs to be done, and systematically. So we've had every time we go out, we've got really spectacular numbers. In my humble opinion, is that we've had really good results, and we just got to be persistent. We're going to have some dusters. That's like a given. That's what we've got to do anyway, because you're proving that it's not there. So you've got to go and have a look. And even if a hole is blank, So that's what this Stockwork. It doesn't guarantee mineralisation, but you're learning from it. So that's you're getting closer and closer to the truth.
You got to know what it is geologically as well, and a lot. Why I call this, the positive negatives.
Yeah.
And every drill hole cannot be positive, and you've got to learn from it. And that's what diamond core is. That's why it's so expensive.
Yeah. It is expensive, and so there's a regional. So we look at a regional, and then we bring it down to macro, and we still got a lot of work to be done on the north. And this just helps us, align our dividing rods as we go further to the north, and give this ground the justice that it's actually needed to be done.
That's good. Look, I'm curious because I'm really interested in your nickel side of the story. Whether it's the main focus or not, but you're definitely in nickel country. And talking to the guy yesterday, I think there is some substance to some of your nickel story.
Yeah. So when we released the EM, a lot of people went and got into to see if we're full of hot air or not with this announcement. So WA produced 90% of Australia's nickel, and so WMC, created some of the smartest mines in nickel in the world, and they had a really strong program of, their belief was we've got to keep on getting smarter and from grassroots get these guys up to becoming world leaders, and which WMC was. So there's a lot of smart people in Western Australia with the nickel, and geophysics is one of the first things we did. So what led us to it is, I say that we've got this huge data set to dive into, and data mining, smart data mining. So within that data set was a couple of historical EMs that were done prior, so 2000s they were done, and technology's changed quite a lot now. So it warranted to go, and these EM plates hadn't been tested, so it warranted us to go and bring modern technology onto it. So we used the squid to do that, and so what actually happened with this plate? So we know that there's graphitic shales here. So this target is bookended between two known nickel deposits. One being mined out which is Andrew Shaft, 660,000 tonnes at 3% nickel, and the other end, to the southern end, is near metal Zabel. Zabel was 330 at 2%, good grades. And that's 1.5 between the two. You got this EM plate sitting there. So it warranted, go and spend $40,000 to go and do a new modern EM plate. We know that there's graphitic shales. I know the guy that was a geologist at Andrew Shaft, retired now. So we know there's graphitic shales there, and graphitic shales would light up the EM with it. So modern technology. Someone said the other day, it's really great. Change of technology and change of thought leads to innovation or discovery. So we've got the new technology to come through it. It makes, and so when you're doing exploration, you're looking for these sort of compounding things to justify your idea. So you have these coincidental layers of information. So if you think of it as a sort of graphical thing, you're looking down on these coincidental things. So if it's the stratigraphy is continuous, you're sitting between two known nickel deposits. Then you go and do a modern EM, and if the graphitic shale, so you have something's caused this conductor. So it's late time, 6,000 to 8,000 Siemens. If you think of so what we do with the EM is we put an electric, quite high current loop, which is basically a cable that's run out in a square, and then we'll move a receiver in a grid within that loop and just outside that loop. So what we're doing is magnetising the rocks. And so if you think of a harmonic fork, this conductor, when we charged it, it was ringing for, when we're talking milliseconds, but this thing was ringing really, really late. So it's a late time conductor. So if you think of a harmonic fork, you bring it and it's still ringing. It's just ringing in a logarithmic timescale, it's rigging for days. So this is a 400 metre hole, so it costs me money, it's shareholders' money that we're going on and do it. But the layers of coincidentals means to go and have a look at it. So, you know, when we gave out the announcement, you know, geophysics is geophysics. It's just one tool. So everyone's had a look at it, and you know, the feedback I've got is from other people, it's worth the drill, it's worth it. So it's one of three things. And we're drilling it today, actually. So it's one of three things. It's some form of sulfides. We have sulfides that are not mineralised effectively with the nickel. It's a big blob of some graphitic shale, or we can't explain what caused that conductor. Travis was telling me yesterday, maybe. So this ground is old. So this was controlled by Cellcast, Australia Select. And a really great book is called Money Miners, and this talks about the Kambalda story. It's a story about Poseidon, and you know, it touches on this. It's of that era. It's in the 70s. So Cellcast sold the southern portion, which we control the gold rights, to WMC, and they developed and mined out the nickel resources to the south, and just to the immediate to the east of this EM conductor. Cellcast never gave rights to WMC to our tenements that we control and to the northern part of these tenements. So if you look at our map, you see these nickel occurrences, and then they just stop because they hit the boundary of this Cellcast, hit really where this EM plate is. And so when WMC mined, when WMC was doing exploration, they did drill holes right up against the boundary. So the stratigraphy's dipping across to the west. They had controlling of the ground to the east. They can't drill over onto the boundary, over to the neighbours. So they drilled a hole, hit small bits of nickel, and had a very strong off-hole conductor. So it's a down-hole EM for it. So potentially they were looking at the same EM that we're looking at with the modern technology. So again, that just helps us, these layers of coincidence just helps us justify in ourselves. I mean, for us, capital allocation is huge. We're a junior mining company. We've got limited funds and limited people. Make sure that we make the right decisions on what we do. And that 100,000, you know, for this diamond drill hole, it's a 400 metre hole, you know, that's taking it away from something else. So we've got to be conscious that we're making the right decision, and those levels of coincidental layers just helps us justify us. And we're not just doing it randomly. We're not, you know, we've been in the industry for a long time, and you know, our reputation. We want a discovery, so we're working as hard as we can do with that one. So yeah, it warrants the whole. And yeah, it's intriguing of what caused it. So we're going to go and find out.
I mean, this kind of stories that, you know, if people, they say, 400 metre holes is sort of a one-shot pony. But, you know, Poseidon is 10 metres at 10% nickel at 1.2 kilometres, which is their recent discovery, right? Yeah. And they hit 4 of them, and they're all in that double digits.
Yeah, I love the story.
So it is, and in this sort of market, in that case, grade is king. You know, so you just never know. That's what exploration is.
Well, you have to the north we have a 3% and a 2% to the south. So we know we're going to be in that. We're not expecting too much other, but there's something. It's intriguing to know what it is. So it's worth the whole, and that's just one of multiple targets. This is, I mean, again, not really distractory for us because we're still talking about 1101, the main tenement. And we're very dynamic in our drill rig. So we've had the drill rig since December. We just drive 800 metres to the east and go and drill this hole. It takes the guys 4 hours to go and terra drilling and doing a drilling and fantastic job. But it takes 4 hours for them to move a hole, not like half a day it used to be. So, you know, we're super flexible with what it is, and we've still got everything else that we're processing from our ongoing drill program. So we've got a huge amount of news flow coming out and drill results coming through. I think Redback, you know, the purpose, we've got 2,500 metres of Redback. The idea is to build up the resource, so we'll go away and have a look and have a bit of time to think about it. And you know, it's worth having drilled in this hole for the nickel.
Yeah. Oh, great, Tim. I mean, look, exploration is always I guess it's in my blood in some ways. You know, my grandfather was a gold miner in Malaysia, and the story goes that he was, you know, like all prospectors, they were really doing a bad thing, and then suddenly, I don't know how true this is, but the storm came, tree fell down, they found all this gold, and that's the beginning of his, you know, gold mining days.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah, so so it's that kind of thing happens all the time, right? Whether you're in Malaysia or Africa or...
Oh, it's exciting, and it's hugely exciting to be able to do it. I mean, my father was in mining. He was GM up at Argyle. I grew up at Argyle. Like, it's you know, it spoilt my view of what the mining. I mean, I was saying to someone the other day, we had hovercrafts, you know, up at Argyle. So we're a junior mining company, so we're quite conscious with it. So it's in your blood, and I love the part for me is unraveling the story, and you're talking millions and millions and millions of years. And to unravel that side of the story, I love getting involved. And maybe the geos sometimes think I get a bit too involved and I know a little bit too much. But I love getting involved with that story and piecing the puzzle together. It's you know, the modern Robinson Crusoe and having a look around.
Well, I mean, that's why I think I love exploration so much, is the fact that it's probably in my blood, and you know, a good exploration is, you know, one glass, you're halfway there, 5 glasses there, you've got a model, you know. And
exactly right.
That's what you just got to keep doing. And I think I love these kind of exploration stories and then you can see the results, you know, your consistent results, consistent zonings, and looking at geologically, structurally, and, you know, sort of ties in over time. But the critical thing is, you know, funding, management, and good assets. I think those are the 3 components that most companies need. And I think you've probably got most of those. Well, you have those 3, and I guess the rest is just, you know, keep drilling and hope the market is still there to support you, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't. The market doesn't reflect who we are or changes our thoughts. It does affect some of our decision making, but doesn't affect our overall, you know, belief in the system. Doesn't change the fact that we got 16 metres at 9 grams at all. I mean, they're spectacular results. And you know, it doesn't change our opinion of our supporters. So our main supporters keep drilling, and that's the belief that we've got. So yeah, it's most probably disappointing that the market doesn't, but I can't control what people are doing, so we just control our decisions.
Well, look, I said, you know, the views, I try to always tell you guys to get involved and ask questions. I met some of you guys there, which really, you know, made my head grow big. But, you know, definitely send the comments, definitely, you know, reach out to Tim and get involved and just have a chat. I think that's what you guys can do the best, is just ask the questions. And you know, I need to do the YouTuber thing, you know, likes and subscribe. But look, Tim, thanks for time, and I think it's a fantastic story. And I hope you guys have continued success and we can follow the story. Thanks, Noel. And we'll have another chat the next time.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone to spend the time to listen to me talk. And please reach out. I'm happy to. I love the story. I really love the story, and I'm happy to have a discussion about it. But thanks, Noel, for the time.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thanks, mate.